because whenever I do puzzles, what I try to do is I try to take them from my own games, because you get this interesting perspective having lived through it. Like, okay, what were the ideas that I thought were important, and how much of it did I get right, how much did I get wrong? And I think that's kind of the exercise that you need to do. Let's say when you're working through a puzzle book, the goal is never to get, well, I mean, if you get it right, that feels good, but it shouldn't be your primary objective, right, to solve the puzzle. That's not why you're practicing tactics. You're practicing to sort of break down your thinking process and see what you're doing right, what you're doing wrong, so that when you have a game, you sort of recognize, okay, usually I mess up when certain things start to happen, and you're alert and aware of it. So let's see. Here we go. No. Yes. All right. So let's start with an easy one. This is actually taken from a game played this morning at the Berlin Grand Prix. I don't know, have you guys been following this tournament? You have? Yeah? What do you think so far? No comment?
No comment.
Okay.
It's been interesting.
Yeah, there are a lot of exciting games. You know how the format works?
No, not really. I just started following it this morning.
Yeah, they have 4 groups of 4 players each. The winner of each group advances to a knockout stage, right? So you're going to end up with 4 players sort of doing like a semi-final and a final. And the 2 players to reach the the 2 players that finish at the top of the standings in the Grand Prix qualify for the candidates, right?
Oh, yeah.
And the winner of the candidates plays Magnus. So this is the final leg of the Grand Prix. So after this tournament is over, the final candidate spots will have been awarded. So we'll have a complete picture of what the candidates tournament is going to be like.
And then whoever wins plays Magnus.
Exactly. Now they actually kicked Karyakin out of the candidates, so a spot opened up there. Yeah. So that makes things kind of...
They should put, what's that? Oh, I forgot his name. What's the Chinese player who hasn't been able to play?
Ding Liren?
Ding Liren.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of debate and speculation as to who's going to get that spot, what the criteria is going to be.
Okay.
So it's not guaranteed that it's going to be Ding Liren.
I hope it is. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, I mean, he's fun to watch, so, and he deserves it. He's been up there.
He's been getting screwed over his best.
Yeah, no, absolutely. That would be a pretty solid choice.
Weren't you playing in Brazil?
I was playing in Brazil, but not against Ding Liren.
I don't know. I know that. I'm just saying. I just recognized your face. Weren't you playing in Brazil?
Were you in Brazil?
I wasn't in Brazil, but I heard that you were playing, and I saw your name.
Oh yeah.
I was like, "How are you back here?" So
I move around. I actually played a series of tournaments in South America. I played 2 in Argentina, 1 in Brazil, 1 in Uruguay. So I had a little tournament schedule tour planned, and now
I saw your name on like one of the rosters. I think it was for it was in Uruguay as well, where I saw you. I was like, what? I was confused when I was seeing you.
yeah, no, I was there. So you never know when I'm gonna appear or where. But anyway, I do have some games from that Brazil tournament that I was going to use for today's class. Is everything all right?
Fix the crop.
What would you like me to do?
Well, because it's cut off. The board's cut off.
Do you want me to just move it like this?
No, don't do that.
You got a full screen.
Yeah. No,
Oh, you want me to full screen it?
Yeah.
No, don't
You want to do
that.
it?
Yeah.
Okay. Should I get up?
Yeah.
All right.
I watched a few of those games. Like Gotham.
Sorry, guys.
Which one?
You know Gotham Chess.
Gotham Chess?
Yeah, you know what it is.
I know the website.
Lev Rosman.
Oh, Levon. Okay.
Yeah, he went up for a few games.
Oh, really? Oh, interesting. I didn't know that.
So now he's like, no. Sorry.
I do, yeah. I have a few from Brazil, a few from Uruguay, a couple from Argentina.
Oh,
okay. We'll see. All right, there we go. All right, so I'm just gonna. I also don't like to just show you a position. I kind of like to see how the players got there, but we're not going to spend a lot of time on that. Yeah, so I mean, Esipenko is no slouch, right? I mean, he's
He's one of my favorite players.
he's the player of the moment. Really, he's like the Russian hope. Very young player, very talented.
So is Levon.
Who?
So is Levon.
Yeah, no, I mean, but Levon is kind of an established player, right? He's been around for a long time. You know, he's playing well now, but there was a moment where he was like 28, 20 or something, like some ridiculous rating. He was like number 2 in the world. Everybody thought he was going to be the next guy playing Magnus, and then he kind of just got into a slump there that he seems to be getting out of. So he's an incredibly creative attacking player. So anyway, we're gonna breeze through the opening because I want to get to this moment. Because to me, the game starts at this point.
I played this today.
Huh?
I played this today. So if you can go bishop, f8. He took.
You played this today?
I literally played this exact game today. Yes.
Wow, that's crazy.
He said he took the knight, and I took the bishop.
Yeah, and you didn't know that Aronian had played the same game?
No,
Oh, that's funny.
I was just playing my opening because I had the book on the Queen's game by.
Well, but this was a Nimzo-Indian, right? Not necessarily the Queen's game.
Nimzo-Indian, yes. And I played the Queen's too.
Okay, what book is that?
It's you have it out there. It's the Queen's Gambit like repertoire, but I'll show you.
Do you know who the author is?
Arthur. I'm gonna get it.
That's all right. You can get it later. Don't worry about it.
I'm gonna get it.
Okay.
It's annoying me now because I wasn't.
All right. So anyway, the interesting thing is apparently his opponent played bishop takes c3 here, and now I'm guessing after bishop takes c3, the idea must be to go knight e4. But I don't know. I mean, here it seems like I can just go rook c1, castles, maybe safeguard my bishop. I think white should probably be a little bit better. In the game, black played bishop f8, and this is where the theme gets introduced, right? When you look at this position, what do you think? Like, what would you play as white? What would you try to sink your teeth into in black's position? What do you see as a liability for black?
Possibly the open C file, or our semi-open file.
Right. I mean, you would think, oh, maybe I can go like rook c1 and put pressure on this pawn. The thing about it, though, is that this pawn is fairly easy to defend for black. Black's idea is to go c5, knight bd7, and that pawn on c5 is going to have protection from the pawn, the knight, the bishop, the rook if I need it, right? So black's pieces are really going to swarm towards that c pawn. So black has his bases covered. So who was it?
Boris
Avruk?
Oh yeah, that's exactly.
Okay, so this is a repertoire for white?
Yes.
That must be his d4
It
series.
is D4.
Okay, yeah. That's interesting. I didn't know he recommended this. I'll have to check that out. But anyway, the c pawn might be the first thing that stands out, and not surprisingly, it's the first thing that black has sort of taken care to make sure that it's not going to be a huge problem. So we're just trying to figure out what about black's position sort of stands out to you as a potential target. Like, how would you create problems for black?
For black?
Yeah.
Oh, is it white? Oh, yeah. Maybe rook c1.
Right, that's what he was saying, right? Sort of targeting the c7 pawn, but actually that's very easy to defend.
Oh, I wasn't thinking. I was just control the c file since it's open.
Some-
That's all I was thinking. I wasn't thinking about attacking that pawn.
Because something interesting has happened here, right? Black castled very quickly, and white didn't castle at all. So you would think, yeah, you would think that this would be a liability for white, not for black, right? To leave the king in the center.
It's not
But-
in this position though, because you can go h4 or h5 and you start attack with g5.
Okay, but I mean, let's say, okay, you go h4, I go c5.
You don't have to respond to that because
Okay.
if they take, or they could push it. That'd be fine.
So what do you do?
I mean, you could attack the rook, but there's just bring out the knights. That's what matters.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
I mean, what was the idea of h4? What was, how are you going to mate me?
Maybe, like, I'm just waiting for my opponent to do something with h4. Maybe start a little bit of attack.
Yeah, so you have to be careful not to...
Oh, isn't knight g5? Is that?
Okay, so now we're talking about
Knight.
something pretty real, right?
Knight g5.
Yeah, knight g5. This is the key move. After knight g5, black is under pressure. Black has to deal with the threat on this pawn on h7, right? The mistake with h4, it's not that h4 is a bad move, but h4 is a piece of the puzzle. It's not the puzzle, right? So what you have to do before you, because I can tell you're getting excited about this attack. You see a move, boom, boom, boom. You want to play it right away, and that's what you need to fight when you're attacking. You need to sort of take a deep breath and say, okay, how does this fit in with not just one threat or one move, but how can I get all of my pieces to participate in sort of the same target, right? So yeah, what were you going to say?
So what does black do? Because if black plays h6, can't you then go h4?
Well, you could go h4, but you have a much better move here. So this is going to be our first sort of warm-up tactical.
Oh, I mean, you could bring your bishop. No, that's why.
So let's try to be specific, right? Because when it comes to tactics, you want to avoid using words, and instead you want to try to use variations as much as possible, right? So tell me your sequence.
I would probably play some like h4, but then if he doesn't take.
And also, I mean, what happens if I do take it after h4?
Then I take back, and it's very bad because.
Moves. I want moves, right? So
Okay, so it's knight to take, right?
h4, h takes g5.
H takes g5, and then h takes g5,
Yeah.
and then his knight's under attack.
So he moves the knight. Where does it go?
Oh, it goes to e4, and it's not nothing. It's not like it goes to.
Right.
See that?
So you have to be careful. That's why you want to avoid situations where you're like, oh, h4 and attack, right? That's no good. That's not going to get you anywhere. You have to follow through with the variation at least until a logical conclusion, right? Where you say, okay, all of the captures and all of the checks have been dealt with, and I don't see anything. Yeah?
Bishop h7. Good.
And if knight takes?
Checkmate, queen.
Right. And if king h8 instead of knight takes?
Knight takes h7.
Yeah, so here you have mate in 2, right?
Oh, I'm blind.
You're not blind.
I saw it.
No, you didn't see it. What you did was, the first thing that you saw was h4. So you've been trying to make h4 work all the time, right? And that's a mistake, because what that does, it gives you this tunnel vision. What your mind is doing is saying h4, 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 and it's closing you off from alternatives. So if you start viewing moves as part of a greater scheme, then you're more open to, okay, what other player can I incorporate into this attacking team? Because you're not just going to give checkmate with h4. It's not enough. So the point of knight g5 is to force g6, right? Which is basically the only move. And now h4 makes a lot more sense because you have this hook on g6 so that you can play h5, h takes g6, and then your rook joins the attack as well. Notice how gradually the attacking team is incorporating more and more players. Now it's not just the queen, it's not just the bishop, it's not just the knight, it's not just the pawn, it's not just the rook. Like all of these pieces together are creating are increasing the pressure. So black plays c5, white goes h5, and now that there's no bishop h7, black figures, okay, now it's the time to go h6. So this is our second hurdle. How should white play here?
King lines.
Any ideas? In the chat, they're saying that here the tunnel vision move is h takes g6. I don't know. I wouldn't
don't
say.
think it's-
Oh yeah.
Oh, I was gonna say I don't think that's correct because if you take h6, they can. Well, let's say they take the knight.
You kind of have to.
Yeah, you take the knight, right?
Yeah.
Then say you take the pawn again.
Yeah.
The king takes and
Mhm.
the king runs.
Where does it run?
Because if you bring your rook, oh, you can't even bring your rook down. Like if you check, oh, you want the rook down. You can't let go.
So this is actually what happened in the game, and to me, it didn't seem obvious how the attack would develop from here, right? So
You win an exchange, but I don't see.
right, but we didn't go into this to win an exchange. Besides, we already gave up a knight, right? So what we
Yeah,
would be
so-
doing, we would be getting some material
Two for
back.
one rook.
Yeah. So really, the material issue is secondary unless we win a lot of material, like enough to put the game away, which is definitely not the case here. So the question is, how can we maintain the pressure on this king? How can we keep the game alive, right, in terms of our attack?
Well, what if you go check on g6 and
Yeah.
bring your queen in instead of taking?
Okay, so for example, if I go here, or maybe I should go here, I don't know.
Well, if you go there, then don't you just go rook h7, knight takes, bishop takes, and it's like your queen comes in next move?
Okay, so notice you're doing the same thing as before, right? You're saying, like remember when knight g5, we looked at h6 and you were like, okay, h4 and just
Yeah.
attack, and all of a sudden you stopped there, but if you would have gone one or two more moves, you saw h takes, knight e4, and all of a sudden you have nothing, right? So what happens after rook h7, knight takes, bishop takes? Yes, you're threatening mate in 2 with queen g6.
Yes, but the queen just goes up, or the rook goes up.
Yeah, right? Any move that stops queen g6 and your attack is over.
Yeah.
So how can white remain latched on to the threat of the game, which is the attack on the king, right? And for the attack on the king to be successful, we need an attacking team. We need pieces to work together, right? So it's clear that this is basically our attacking team.
Yeah.
It's the only pieces we have left. We don't have much of a choice. I'm sorry, did you have your hand up, or is?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you were just like supporting.
Oh, I was just waiting for you to finish.
I'm sorry. Yeah.
Yeah. I think like putting the bishop on h7 has a threat and has potential.
Okay, so this looks interesting now, right? Because all of a sudden you don't have these moves to stop queen g6. So now queen g6 is coming. That looks pretty interesting. It actually looks pretty devastating,
That's
right? So same idea, except you get to keep your rook. It seems like a pretty swell deal. And if I take...
Well then, actually just queen take. No, just rook take. Yeah, rook takes.
Well, against either move, I'm just going to go king f6, right? So do you take with the rook or the queen?
I feel like the queen gives more alpha because the queen doesn't really have any squares to take with the rook.
Okay, and after this?
Do you just bring the rook down and it's mate? Oh, that's not because you bishop takes. So.
Mm-hmm.
I'm confused. Oh, do you check on H8?
Bishop G7.
Yeah. Oh, but then you bring your rook down to H6 because
King F7.
Do you take the bishop?
Wait, so Queen H8, Bishop G7, Rook H6, King F7.
King, you said what? H6. Oh. King F7.
So just call out the sequence that you're looking at.
I'm looking at Queen H8, Bishop G7, Rook H6. And then where the king go? The king
King F7.
King F7, yeah. And then you take with the queen.
Take what?
On G6. The bishop.
Queen takes.
Yeah, queen takes, and it's mate? Question mark?
Wait, what? The bishop's on G7?
So here,
Yeah, but then you bring your
here,
down.
here, and now you take,
Oh, yeah, I didn't.
and then king takes, right? That doesn't work.
It's close, though. There's something there.
It's not that close.
It's not close. Like,
I think you have a much simpler way of going about things.
I mean, is it just taking the bishop?
Yeah, right? You just take
that's
the
it?
take the
I thought
bishop.
they were a mate, okay.
You still have the attack, but now you're up a pawn instead of being down a piece, and your knight's coming into the attack. So it's really not so much about, oh, I won a bishop. You've got more pieces coming into the attack with knight takes d5. So this is completely over.
Oh, I mean, I
That's why black played
I
king e7.
shouldn't think
Yeah?
it was a big deal.
What was that?
I said I saw that earlier. I just didn't think it was a big deal.
It's a pretty big deal. So after king e7, what do we do now? Because now obviously bishop h7 doesn't make any sense.
We could try Queen F5.
And what's your idea after queen f5?
Like if we got to move again, Rook H7,
And after knight takes,
then Queen F7,
king d6,
Knight B5.
king c6. You're so close.
We could take the rook. Take rook e8.
You still be,
Or is there something?
you still be down.
Well, but now I'll probably just go queen takes,
And then
right?
bishop takes, you
Oh no, but you still have the bishop on g6. No, you're taking on e8 with the bishop, so I can go queen takes because you already gave me your rook. I don't know. Let's say I'll make like a random move, right, just to see if it works. You're saying check here, check here, here, here. Oh, you're saying take with the queen.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't.
Okay.
But then my queen takes and you're just down. Still.
What am I down?
Yeah, you're
For being down material, it looks like I'm up a piece.
Oh. You're up a piece there? That's three.
Well, I see 1, 2, 3, 4, and you only have 3 of those.
Yes, I have a piece.
But maybe what could be interesting is starting with this move, taking away d6, and now threatening here. But I don't know, maybe queen d7. It feels strange.
Wait. Well, then the king goes to d8.
Yeah, right? The idea is to clear an escape square. But I don't know, because maybe I'll have check
Right.
and take here. Notice that I'm always like one move away from just getting my piece back, maintaining a position with an extra pawn, and a tremendous attack, right? Now here, this is hanging, so this is an easy flowing attack for white, because you can, even if you don't checkmate, you'll get whatever you invested back with interest. So I do think that, you know, after queen f5, you have knight b5 ideas, rook h7 idea, queen e5 ideas, queen takes g5 ideas. There are too many fronts for black to cover here. So black played bishop g7, and now what do we do? By the way, queen f5 is a tough move, right? Because it's a move that threatens to threaten something, right? But the important thing is to identify that you know that you need to checkmate this king, and you know that the pieces that are going to do it are going to be your queen, bishop, and rook. And if you don't see a direct win right away, what you need to do is you need to start getting closer to the king. So queen f5 is an important move because now the queen is creeping up the board and getting closer to that king and creating new targets, right? Not just the king. If all black had to worry about was not getting mated, that would be a lot easier for black. But now also black has to worry about not losing the knight, you know, not losing the rook. So after bishop g7, how does white continue this attack? And this is really where you see what a brilliant attacker Aronian is. It's almost like he's enjoying this attack, like he doesn't want it to end.
Yeah. Do you check E5 when you bring your knight and you get a star?
So you're saying queen e5,
Yeah.
and after king d7,
Do you bring your bishop in?
bishop f5, and then, well, maybe against queen e5 I can go king f8. Maybe that's better. Because bishop f5 does look pretty scary there. I have to go king c6.
Bishop F5, king C6.
So let's say
Knight
I go,
comes in.
if I go king f8,
Look, your knight comes in.
right, so you're saying here, 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 and here. Where does the knight come in?
Oh, I didn't see that. I thought you went the other way. You went right there.
Where? I don't think I have any other moves.
Yeah, sorry.
No, I mean, maybe this is worth looking at, but first I would ask myself, well, what's wrong if I just go here? Looks like a much safer square for the king.
And there's a rook right there. No, it's not a knight.
Right? This rook is attacking your queen, but if you take it, now you're starting to lose attackers. This might still be kind of interesting
Yeah.
because you take here, but black takes here. This looks messy, right? And it looks like our attacking team is being sort of decimated, and we're not getting to do enough damage to black's position. So I think we can do much, much better than queen e5 and taking the rook.
I'm wondering about e4 to get our bishop in there.
Brilliant. So e4 is just an outright brilliant move, because whenever you're attacking and you can't seem to breach the defenses, you need to bring more pieces in, right? You need to expand your team. And once this bishop gets to g5, the game's just going to be over.
What
So-
about that rook on your line with your king?
What's that?
What about that rook?
Which rook?
The one with the king's in front on E on E.
This rook? What about it?
No, it's scary.
Well, you know, it must be pretty scary for black to have a king right in front of it, though, right? But I'm noticing you're basing a lot of decisions on what things look like or the first impressions that they make. And if you could figure out all of chess by first impressions, it would be such an easier game than it is, right? But a lot of the times, things are the opposite of what they look like. So yes, you would think, oh, I left my king in the center and there's a rook on the e file. Why would I ever go e4? But there's no reason not to do it, right? There's no sequence that you can point to.
And even if there was, could you just go to that?
Killing me, man.
You
Well,
get a murder.
yeah, man. I'm here in the limelight. So anyway, the thing that matters is you have to make this king, right? You're game for whatever goes down, but you need to get more pieces closer to that king, or you're not going to be able to checkmate it. So black, just like white tries to bring more attackers, black's trying to bring more defenders. So after knight c6, what do we do? All right, if bishop takes, I think black's idea is to go knight takes.
Then bishop takes knight.
But then
Bishop takes knight. No, this is a good point. So bishop takes.
And bring rook in.
Okay, and here.
Queen takes.
Okay, thank you.
Ooh, my bad. I didn't even see that.
Looks kind of annoying because
Yeah.
this king gets tucked away quite nicely on f8 whenever things get really heated.
do you push your pawn?
Okay, so here's another interesting suggestion. And
With white?
can I play this move again?
Or yes, but can pawn take check?
And now peekaboo. You were right all along.
Oh,
See,
I forgot about that.
you had a good point. Now I'm actually winning your queen.
Yeah, yeah. See that?
So black is preparing an interesting counterattack here with knight takes d4.
It's a very nice one.
So we really want to play this move, but we don't want to give black this counterplay.
That's so weird. There's no checks either.
That is not true.
There's no checks? There's a check? Well, knight can take. But doesn't the knight just take?
So knight takes, knight takes.
Oh, the thing goes down.
Ah, now bishop takes, right? So I gave you a knight, but I got to stop you from doing what you wanted, right?
Yes.
So at first it might seem hard to think of that, right? To think, why would I sacrifice a knight just to stop knight takes d4? But once you realize what this game is about, what both sides are playing this tug of war over, then it makes perfect sense because your bishop gets into the attack and you've stopped knight d4. So let's see. Wait, what happened here? Oh, that's right. White took on e8 first, which I don't know if it was the most accurate move. And after queen takes, then he went knight takes d5. And after knight takes, bishop takes, and king d6. So what's the idea if black gets greedy and says, okay, let me just keep my extra piece?
I mean, it's pinned, but
Yeah?
you can still play that move if you push your pawn. So.
What's the move?
I said if you push your pawn, you can still take on d6 or d4.
Right, and it's almost the same idea, right? After takes, I have king f8.
Yeah.
Although, yeah.
And that's not casting your king there is
I'll still take my king's chances over yours, right? It's not that bad. Yeah?
Bishop takes f6. Rook h7.
Yeah. Here.
Then you capture this with check.
Here.
And that.
Ooh, then you can skewer rook down, rook to h5.
Very nice.
Nice.
So you didn't get the checkmate, but you just took down so much material. Yeah, you just win too much.
That's game over.
It is game over. So black played king d6, and now after queen takes, king
That's what I was
c7.
looking at.
Huh?
I was looking at this line first.
It's a good line.
I was
And-
looking at the line. I was looking at
And now how does this? Continue.
Rook H7.
Black resigned. Right. Black's not even up material here. Black is down material. White has a rook and 3 pawns for 2 minor pieces, which generally speaking is enough for a decisive advantage. But on top of that, your king is getting destroyed here, right?
And it's not even rook d8 for the
No, and you're gonna lose this bishop. I got bishop f4 ideas, so yeah, this is just a hopeless position. Okay,
Very
so that was our warm up.
warm up.
Yeah, that was
I
easy.
wanted to ask earlier, what was this opening? I want to say it looks like a Catalan.
Well, no, because a Catalan would involve playing g3 bishop g2, right?
First Catalan, my bad.
So that was pretty easy to rule out. No, but this was a Nimzo-Indian Rogozin. They can usually transpose.
Didn't he go queen c2?
Went like that, and now queen c2.
Alright.
And I don't know. I'm gonna have to check that Avrok book to see what he recommends here, because your move probably bishop takes c3 is the best, and knight e4.
Yeah, but that's what mine not even go 94, I'm pretty sure, but he definitely took bishop takes.
Mm-hmm.